Good evening and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance, and coming up today, President Trump hosting the Irish Prime Minister in the Oval Office. This visit coming as trade tensions escalating between the U.S. and European nations as both sides hit each other with new tariffs. Senate Democrats divided over government funding ahead of the Friday deadline. Some saying a shutdown could empower President Trump. Plus, Congressman Marlin Stutzman joins us to discuss his budget priorities. President Trump doubling down on his decision to reduce the size of the Department of Education, part of his effort to return oversight of schools to the individual state. Plus, what the president says about inflation and the economy.
This is Capitol Report, live from our global headquarters in our nation's capital. Here's Steve Lance.
And House Democrats urging their Senate counterparts to reject the continuing resolution ahead of this Friday's deadline. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez brings us the details.
I don't know why anyone would support that bill. The House Democratic position is crystal clear, as evidenced by the strong vote of opposition that we took yesterday on the House floor.
House Democrats are very clear. We're asking Senate Democrats to vote no on this continuing resolution, which is not clean.
House Democrats began their three-day annual policy retreat in Leesburg, Virginia this Wednesday, showing unity in their opposition to President Trump's legislative agenda and sending a strong message to Senate Democrats.
And that's why our message to the Senate is also stand with us on that side. And we think that our vote gives the Senate the strength and the message they need to stand up as well.
The House of Representatives is in recess, and the Senate has until Friday at midnight to vote on the House's continuing resolution or face a government shutdown on their watch.
Shutdowns are bad. We're seeing what the market's doing to pensions this week, and other uncertainty in the markets will just hurt people that have been playing by the rules and working hard. Look, I think these are two bad products, bad environments that provide more chaos and uncertainty to the American people.
Republicans will need the support of at least 7 Democrats to pass the stopgap bill through the Senate floor, and Democrats are divided over supporting it.
I think most voters care more about how this is going to affect their everyday lives. They aren't going to get into the weeds about constraining Trump or anything of that nature.
If you shut down the government, the president is the person who decides what is essential. He decides what part of the government stays open. So you're actually giving him even more power. So I haven't made up my mind, but I think that the continuing resolution is awful.
It is worth mentioning that Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire announced this Wednesday that she will not seek re-election in 2026, becoming the 3rd Democratic senator to do so before the midterm elections. Reporting from Leesburg, Virginia, Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Step toward President Trump's longtime goal of shutting down the Department of Education. Part of DOJ's initiative to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, roughly 1,300 staffers were let go on Tuesday, nearly half of its workforce.
Clearly, we're not taking away education. The president never said that. He's taken the bureaucracy out of education so that more money flows to the states. Better education is closest to the kids, with parents, with local superintendents, with local school boards. I think we'll see our scores go up with our students when we can educate them with parental input as well.
The administration says the move will not impact student aid, programs for students with disabilities, civil rights investigations, and formula funding to states. All impacted employees will receive full pay and benefits until June 9th. And while meeting with the Irish Prime Minister, President Trump defended his decision to make large cuts at the Department of Education, also saying he thinks the economy is heading in a positive direction. NTD correspondent Jason Blair brings us more from Washington, D.C.
President Trump sounded optimistic when asked about the state of the economy at the White House. He said he thinks the dip in the stock market recently is more related to the past 4 years. The president touted how the cost of eggs recently dropped almost 30% and said that cost will be going down for energy soon.
Oil is down to $65 a barrel. And that's faster than I would have anticipated. When energy comes down, prices are going to be coming down with it. So in a very short period of time, we've done a very good job.
And when asked about the cuts at the Department of Education, the president says that he really stands by the new Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, says he thinks she's doing a good job. And he did give some insight on how some of those decisions were made for the cuts.
I feel very badly, but many of them don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. When we cut, we want to cut, but we want to cut the people that aren't working or not doing a good job. We're keeping the best people.
The president also reiterated his intention to ultimately have states run education instead of, quote, bureaucrats working in Washington. The Trump administration also announced that it started rolling back on the Biden administration rule to have car makers drastically reduce carbon emissions for car models starting in 2027 for light and medium-sized vehicles. This is something Republicans have called a de facto electric vehicle mandate. The Environmental Protection Agency made this announcement on Wednesday, calling it the largest deregulatory announcement in American history.
EPA will be reconsidering many suffocating rules that restrict nearly every sector of our economy and cost Americans trillions of dollars.
This announcement isn't too much of a surprise. On the campaign trail, President Trump did promise to roll back on the Biden administration's fuel efficiency rules. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
President Trump welcoming Irish leader Micheál Martin to the White House, this ahead of St. Patrick's Day, but it comes as trade tensions are escalating between the U.S. and European nations as both sides hit each other with new tariffs. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more.
So we have tremendous business relationships with Ireland. What's with these shots?
It's in honor of the T-shots.
I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm very impressed with the VP's socks.
A lighter atmosphere compared with the last foreign visit.
You don't have the cards.
But tensions are on the rise over trade and tariffs as President Trump criticizes the EU and Ireland for taking advantage of the U.S.
The EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States. When the pharmaceutical companies started to go to Ireland, I would have said, that's okay if you want to go to Ireland. I think it's great. But if you want to sell anything into the United States, I'm going to put a 200% tariff on you.
In Canada and the EU, which Ireland is part of, hit back at the latest U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum by taxing American products such as bourbon and motorcycles. President Trump vows,
of course I'm going to respond,
adding his tariffs are necessary to stop unfair trade and that he has the right to adjust them as needed.
It's not called inconsistency, it's called flexibility. But there will be very little flexibility once we start. April 2nd is going to be a very big day.
After falling for 2 days amid uncertainty around tariffs, stocks closed higher on Wednesday as new report shows inflation cooling more than expected. Trump, calling it good news, says markets will soar when they see the impact of cuts to taxes and regulations.
I tell you, there's tremendous optimism out there about our country in terms of regulations being cut, in terms of taxes being cut.
And on Thursday, U.S. and Canadian officials are set to meet in Washington to talk about an update to the USMCA trade agreement. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil will stay in custody in Louisiana, at least for now. Manhattan federal court today holding a hearing on the case, but wrapping up without a verdict on whether he would be freed. A federal judge on Monday temporarily barred the United States government from deporting Khalil. Before today's hearing, the 30-year-old was arrested this past weekend over his role in the pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University last year. The Trump administration revoking his green card and is looking to deport him back to his home country, Algeria. A notice from the Department of Homeland Security says Khalil's activities would have, quote, potentially seriously adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. That provision is rarely used in deporting permanent U.S. residents. And to discuss these latest developments in national security, we're welcomed by retired CIA operations officer Rick De La Torre. Rick Delatorre, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
It's great to have you with us, Rick. So this week, President Trump revoked security clearances for some of the top aides of former President Biden, as well as intel officials who signed that letter characterizing Hunter Biden's laptop as Russian disinformation. What do these security clearances actually give these folks access to, and what are they going to, sort of be losing because of it?
Right. So when you retire or you leave federal service and you have a security clearance, you have the ability now to work in the private sector in certain positions that still interact with the federal government, where a security clearance is still required. An example of that would be, let's say you become a contractor at the Department of Defense, or you become a contractor at the CIA or at DNI, or any of the numerous federal agencies that do require access to classified information. But in this case, these individuals, I think, what they lost was probably a lot more, and that's credibility, because when you stand up and when you pen something and say, look, I am a retired or former intelligence official, and I have access to information that you'll probably never see, that you will never have access to. So believe me when I tell you, whatever it is, that stuff is serious, because it violates the trust that the intelligence community has with the American people, and could put our national defense at risk. I think the actions they took were probably very spot on, and I think what's going to happen is if they're involved in work that requires a security clearance, they'll no longer have access to that work.
Now, likewise, the president's daily brief no longer being provided to President Biden upon leaving office. This was something that was decided by President Trump. Former President Biden at the time took away Trump's clearance before. Right. What type of intelligence is in this type of briefing?
Right. So the presidential daily brief, which is prepared daily for the President of the United States, is a culmination of a community-wide effort of analysts and collectors from all the intelligence agencies, and they provide this to the president on a number of topics regarding what, generally what you would read in the paper, right? Yeah, but with credible sources that provide some insights that you wouldn't get from the media. So when a president retires from, when a president is no longer in office, when they're no longer president, when they're a former president, what we would do is the federal government, the current president, would extend the same courtesies and allow them to continue to receive briefings or even request briefings on specific things. This worked really well, especially from a diplomatic standpoint, when a former president would, say, visit another country on a delegation, or to meet with other leaders. They'd become a little bit more informed about the issues of the day when they'd meet with those foreign leaders and the people that would be hosting them. In this case, I think Trump's concerns were more along the lines of Biden's mental faculties and his ability to keep things secret and protect national interests. The president is ultimately the final say in what is classified and what is not classified. So he could pull anyone's security clearance. That's about it.
Moving on to this Palestinian activist, Mahmoud Khalil, I believe his name is. He's now being held by ICE. You had Tom Homan calling him a national security threat. Talk to us. What do we know about this person so far?
Right. So Khalil, who was originally here on a student visa, and then was able to achieve a green card through that student visa, is just an active participant and supporter of Hamas. And the concerns there, obviously, was apparently, according to the authorities, is that he was passing out literature that was extremely pro-Hamas, very anti-Israel, calling for violence, promoting some of the very same Hamas terrorists that were involved in the October 7th attacks, and an organizer of the violence that we're seeing at Columbia University. It's noted that he's not a student of Columbia University, so there are a lot of questions regarding, well, why is this individual even in our country if they're not a U.S. citizen, if they're not actively, engaged in doing things that would help the United States. Currently, because of his immigration classification, the Secretary of State has the ability to review that person's status here in the United States, and if they determine that they are a threat to national security, they can be removed.
And perhaps we don't know yet what our authorities do know about this person. Maybe it's a lot more than meets the eye.
That's true too.
Where does sort of First Amendment and providing any type of support to a terrorist organization, where is the line between that? And do you think this might send a message to others who are maybe taking things a little bit across the line when it comes to supporting Hamas?
Correct. Yeah. Look, I think certainly campus universities have every right, and it should be defended, to be socially active and politically active on their campuses. But you have to draw the line when it comes to coordinating and supporting terrorists. And I think in this case, that's exactly what they're trying to do. If the folks, the students at Columbia University feel very strongly about an issue, they can certainly do whatever they should do constitutionally, as long as it doesn't infringe, obviously, on the constitutional rights of others. And in this case, that seems to be one of the issues that the federal government has with Columbia University, where there's a number of Israeli students who are been blocked from being able to attend classes, who have been shouted at, spat on, exposed to violence. That's not constitutionally protected speech. So I'm hoping and praying that in some ways we can lower the temperature on our campuses, and students can maybe learn a little bit more about the Constitution and what the First Amendment is really all about.
Rick Tari, really appreciate your insight.
Yeah, thank you.
And coming up, Congressman Marlin Stutzman will join us in studio to discuss how the House of Representatives could work with the Trump administration to restore American business. U.S. officials preparing to travel to Moscow to present a ceasefire proposal with Ukraine. We'll update you on the status of the peace talks when we return.
Hi, Mike Huckabee here. Having spent many years in politics, I can comfortably say that the current climate is enough to keep any of us awake at night. And I safeguard my well-being by making sure that I get a good night's rest with Relaxium Sleep, America's #1 trusted sleep aid.
I'm Dr. Eric Siliberti, founder of Relaxium, America's most trusted sleep aid.
Just like you're seeing me on television now, I saw a commercial for Relaxium Sleep back then. I called, and the rest is history.
When I take Relaxium Sleep, I sleep better than I have in years.
I wake up feeling like I've had the best night's sleep.
As a clinical neurologist, I know how essential sleep is for building and nourishing both your mental and physical health.
Relaxium Sleep is made in the USA, has no risk of dependency, and is drug-free. It's also the only sleep aid with Valarest as part of its triple action formula.
I developed Relaxium to help my patients fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up refreshed.
Relaxium Sleep worked from the very first night I took it.
You've got to try Relaxium Sleep for yourself, because once you do, you'll be a customer for life, just like me. And right now, you can try it for free.
For nearly 2 decades now, Relaxium Sleep has been changing millions of lives.
Take Relaxium Sleep. I promise you it'll work.
If you're experiencing sleepless nights or tossing and turning, you need to try Relaxium Sleep now.
I trust Relaxium Sleep, and so should you. Get the best night of sleep guaranteed. Don't wait another minute. Call now.
Mike Huckabee is so confident that Relaxium Sleep will work for you, he's asked us to give away another 1,000 bottles. Get your free bottle of Relaxium Sleep now. Visit tryrelaxium.com or call 800-418-1606. That's tryrelaxium.com or call 800-418-1606.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
And welcome back to the Capitol Report. I'm Steve Lance. The Trump administration wants to bring back the blue-collar boom of Trump's first term. To do that, the Small Business Administration will cut $100 billion in regulations as part of the Made in America Manufacturing Initiative. Here to discuss his new bill that would work along those lines is Indiana Republican Congressman Marlin Stutzman. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, Congressman, first, you voted in favor of the continuing resolution which passed. How do you see this following through in the America First agenda, and where does it stand right now with the Democrats?
Well, I come from business, entrepreneur, small business, family business, and I kind of see this as, taking over a depressed property or depressed business, and you don't want to file bankruptcy, but you got to pay the garbage bills to, start over. And I think that's how I look at the CR, is that we have to clear the deck and really set the table for the 2025 budget, which we've already passed the framework for that under the reconciliation package. The CR takes us till the end of September. By then, we need to do our work to pass the next budget, but there's real cuts in these. And so the other piece that I really think is important is what the DOGE team is doing and really revealing all of this wasteful spending. We've all known it intuitively, but to actually be able to go into the checkbook and see exactly where they're sending the money helps us as Congress and also helps the American people know that there is a lot of waste that the federal government has been doing for many, many years.
DOGE is interesting. We have a lot of Democrats on the program as well, and it's not necessarily the Democrats on the Hill, the elected officials, but the Democrats that come on, the experts, many of them are in favor of it.
Well, they should be, because you know what? It really empowers all of us. I mean, it empowers not only members of Congress, but it empowers the American people. I talk about a lot of the spending that was going through USAID, and there's DEI programs and, Sesame Street in Iraq. And it's like, you know what? $20 million in Kendallville, Indiana, or Bluffton, Indiana, or, small town America goes a long way. And so, when you were facing $36 trillion of debt, I know my constituents are very conservative when it comes to their budget, and they want the federal government to do the same.
Speaking of which, you introduced a bill last month which was called the Restoring Checks and Balances Act.
Yeah.
Specifically, it centers on the idea that rules from federal agencies would expire after 5 years unless Congress authorizes them. What's the reasoning behind this bill?
Yeah, I just think it's a common sense approach to resetting every so often. One of the things that, being in business, we had to deal with daily was the regulations from the different agencies that we had to work with. And we had to work with USDA in our meat processing facility. And it wasn't always the regulation that was the challenging part. It was just actually getting an answer. And it's like nobody knew what the answer was. And it's like, well, if you don't know what the answer is, then why do we have the regulation? And so to me, it just made sense that every 5 years, you wipe the regulation away. And if it's really important, then you're going to come back and reinstitute it or, whatever you have to do because it makes sense. But oftentimes, we just kind of let these regulations pile up year after year after year. And all of a sudden, you've got a big mess of regulations that nobody knows how we got there.
Trump actually highlighted that point today in the Oval Office with the Irish Prime Minister.
Yeah, and he mentioned a similar concept with his joint address by saying for every one new regulation, you have to eliminate 10. So he's definitely on the same path, and I felt that this was something that would make a lot of sense to just clean it away, and then it comes back to Congress, and then those regulations can be reinstituted if they make sense, and if they don't, they're gone.
Speaking of the Trump administration, they're seeking to cut $100 billion in regulations for small manufacturers. Based on your own entrepreneurial experience, how significant is this, and will it strengthen domestic supply chains?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, tax policy is big for business, especially small business, but the regulatory piece is even bigger because, we don't have a office full of lawyers. We don't have an office full of accountants. We're trying to figure out how to, make sure our product is getting on to the customer on time and making sure that our employees are taken care of and making sure utility bills are paid for. But when you have to work with the regulatory process as well, then it just adds a whole nother level of complexity. And so regulations can actually slow the economy down much faster. It's like throwing a wet blanket on the economy, and it costs trillions of dollars. There was an estimate by a group that said about $1.3 trillion is the cost of regulations to the U.S. economy. So by the fact that Trump is backing those back, it'll actually spur growth, and the market also regulates itself just through supply and demand and through customer satisfaction. If you don't make the customer happy, they're not going to buy your product. So maybe you have to figure something else out to make sure you have a good product that people want to buy.
And just lastly, back to the CR, a lot of people thought that the Democrats were just going to push it through. It seems like there's now consensus that they're not. You do have some swing state Democrats, like in Arizona and different places, that are a little bit weary of this.
Yeah.
How do you see this playing out? Why the change?
Well, for one, I mean, this freshman class, that I'm a retread, so I came in 2010 with the big Tea Party wave, but now coming back in 2024 after an 8-year absence, this freshman class is really strong. In fact, the whole conference, I see it as saying, you know what, we all know the threat to the United States of this $36 trillion debt. The deficits are out of control. We have to stick together and make sure that we do what it's going to take to be able to fix the problems and pass a budget that really leads us towards a balanced budget and paying debt down. But it looks like the Senate is saying that the Senate Democrats aren't going to give us the 60 votes and a cloture vote to stop the filibuster to go to a final vote. So the House has done, we've done our work on Tuesday. They now have today, tomorrow, and up till midnight Friday to pass our bill. And the fact that we were able to do it out of the House with a Democrat supporting it, by the way, should show them that, let's vote for it. And that way we're not shutting, I mean, they're upset about cuts from DOGE, shutting the government down. Now you're just shutting off all of the funding towards Medicare and Medicaid and all of the programs that they're trying to protect. They're actually going to do more damage.
Indiana Congressman Marlin Stutzman, thank you so much for joining.
You bet, thanks.
The White House says we're closer than ever to achieving peace in Ukraine. This as U.S. officials are getting ready to present a ceasefire plan to Russia. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has a Ukraine update.
And hopefully we can get a ceasefire from Russia. And if we do, I think that would be 80% of the way to getting this horrible bloodbath finished. It's a bloodbath.
President Trump on Wednesday suggesting that getting Russia to accept a ceasefire would be the first and most important step to end the fighting in Ukraine. On Tuesday, Ukraine agreed to a 30-day ceasefire proposed by the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Washington is now going to present the details of the plan to Moscow, telling them Ukraine is ready to stop all battlefield activity.
And we'll see what the response is. If their response is yes, then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace. If their response is no, it would be highly unfortunate and it would make their intentions clear.
The White House says Special Envoy to Ukraine and Russia, Steve Witkoff, is getting ready to present the ceasefire proposal to Russian officials in person.
Mr. Witkoff is traveling to Moscow later this week, and we urge the Russians to sign on to this plan. This is the closest we have been to peace in this war.
Meanwhile, Trump warns that the U.S. could increase tensions if Russia decides to keep the war going.
I can do things financially that would be very bad for Russia. I don't want to do that because I want to get peace. I want to see peace, and we'll see. But in a financial sense, yeah, we could do things very bad for Russia. It would be devastating for Russia.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he welcomes the ceasefire proposal and that it's now up to Moscow to accept the deal and work towards peace, although he didn't name Russia directly.
Today, it depends on this country 100%, because America has demonstrated its steps and its position. Ukraine has demonstrated its position.
Multiple U.S. officials and President Trump have expressed agreement, saying the ball is now in Russia's court. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
And breaking just moments ago, a long-awaited homecoming now encountering yet another hurdle. A launch pad problem prompting SpaceX to delay a flight to replace NASA's 2 stranded astronauts. Just shortly before the launch, NASA announced it's standing down on this operation, citing issues with the aircraft's hydraulic system. The 2 astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, have been stuck in space since last June. They were originally set for an 8-day mission, but their return was delayed to malfunctions with Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. SpaceX did not immediately announce a new launch date, but said the next attempt could be as early as Thursday night. So how are everyday Americans and folks throughout the Capitol reacting to SpaceX's operation? NTD's Sam Wong was out in the National Mall right here in D.C. to hear from them.
SpaceX today is sending a crew to rescue our stranded astronauts. They've been up there since last June, so what's your reaction hearing this?
I think it's amazing that they've been up there that long and that we didn't have a plan to get them down sooner.
That is really, really sad, and I hope they get back here safe.
I've never heard anything like it.
Wait a minute, they've been out there since June. Hopefully they're back by the grace of God. Hopefully they're alive and well and they come back safe and sound.
The International Space Station is fully equipped to support multiple astronauts for a long period of time. They've probably been having a blast.
Yeah, they're probably coming back with some plans to, for life moving forward. Some things they'll do a little bit differently, but
you use the gravity first, probably.
Yeah, gonna come back a little bit taller, a little bit less weight on their shoulders.
The quicker we get them home, the better I think everybody will be. I'm sure they're ready to get home.
Can you imagine what's it like being up there?
No, I could not. I know they've got food and water and survive, but I just can't imagine going up on a short trip and being there as long as they was.
Scary, lonely, boring.
I wouldn't know what to do with myself, stuck in just one place.
In space, I wouldn't be able to do that now.
Scary, shoot. Just being stuck in complete darkness and stars and the sun, of course. Infinite rock, paper, scissors.
I actually work in the aerospace industry, and I've talked to astronauts, and they love spending time in space.
And space is a great place for some quiet reflection, I would imagine. You know, a vacuum, I would pay good money, actually, as a middle-aged man to go sit in a vacuum for a couple of months.
What should be our next priority in space, in your opinion?
Our next priority definitely should be the safety, because if they're stuck up there, then, yeah, they got to focus more on, like, you know, the departure and then the way to come back.
We got to get Artemis off the ground. We got to reduce cost on Artemis. It's very expensive to send Artemis. We need to come up with better ideas, I think.
It is probably the continuation or investigation into something that the general public doesn't have an idea of. I'm sure there are some things going on up there, either from the scientific level, military level.
I'm a Trek fan, a Trekkie, so I'm all about getting into space.
For sure. In our lifetime, though?
Well, I mean, that's not, right now with our technology, I don't think that's possible in our lifetime to get to the Star Trek world, but getting to Mars is definitely possible.
And coming up, can a government shutdown be avoided? We'll delve into the prospects of the funding bill and explore the latest developments in the California governor's race with co-founder of Connexion, Colin Rahiru. Inflation seems to be cooling, falling below economists' expectations, partly due to falling energy costs. A breakdown of which goods and services have become more or less expensive compared to last year when we come back.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air conditioner. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by U.S. News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, Do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen, and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-6782. 800-360-6782.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It is like literally having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medication to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and many more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online in minutes and save $45. Your kit with prescriptions to treat common and life-saving illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit twc.health/NTD. That's twc.health/NTD.
And welcome back to the Capitol Report. I'm Steve Lance. As we tackle the question of whether a government shutdown could be avoided, we're now joined by Colin Rahiro, co-founder of creative director of Connexion. Colin Rahiro, thank you so much for joining.
Happy to be here, Steve.
It's great to have you back with us, Colin. So the continuing resolution that just passed the House of Representatives aims to supplement DOGE in cutting spending. What are its prospects for passing the Senate, given the fact it's going to need Democrat support?
I think they're low. I think, we have seen kind of the moves of DOGE outside of the normal kind of pathways for governments to control and change spending, which normally passes through Congress. And Congress has not been happy about that. Now, I know Republicans in the House have been, not surprisingly, very complacent and willing to just march in lockstep with Donald Trump, despite the questioned legality of movements and motives and things that are happening with DOGE and the unelected CEO-ish person called Elon Musk. But I think the Senate has a little bit more respect for the rule of law and the bodies and the institutions and is in place to slow down when the House moves too quickly. I'm not very optimistic, or perhaps optimistic is the wrong word. I think the CR is a bad CR, and I think it draws into question a lot of things that could cause some potential problems for the United States. I think these folks just need to get a deal done.
To your point, it is politics after all. You're going to have some Democratic senators that are in states that are not won by big margins. And so are they ready? Are these Democrats in these particular states, I believe all you need is 8 to get on, are they ready to sort of potentially wear the shutdown and the publicity that comes with it?
Well, I think that's a great question, Steve. But I think when you control all 3 branches of government, the shutdown is not on the party that's in the minority. The shutdown is on the party that's in the plurality and who has all the power, and that's the Republicans. The Republicans could very easily probably negotiate with the Democrats in a way that the Democrats might support a CR. Now, as to your question to whether senators who have won in states that have small margins will stand up for this, I believe they will. I believe you're starting to see a change in the temperature and in the political calculus of people who may have upcoming elections and may just have won elections. And they're seeing the attacks on democracy. But most importantly, what they're seeing is the reactions from their voters and from their constituents and people in town halls who were saying, hey, we didn't vote for this. Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, Democrats, independents, they're saying, some of this stuff, in theory, we like, but what you're doing, we didn't actually vote for. And so I'd be very surprised if you see the Democrats pass a budget that continues these particular policies that people are in town halls voicing their opposition to, so much so that Republicans are not even doing town halls anymore.
Now, pivoting a bit, some interesting news coming out of the state of California. Katie Porter entering the governor's race there to succeed Governor Newsom. Do you consider her a strong candidate? And what do you make of the fact that I believe her spokesperson said that she would pull out of the race if Kamala Harris decides to enter?
I think she has some respect for the vice president, and clearly she has a relationship there that would dictate her decision. I think what it is based on is wanting to make sure that they have a Democratic governor in place and putting the team, as even Kamala Harris did in her race, some would say to her detriment, before themselves. I think Katie Porter's entry is very interesting. Katie Porter is well known for being mom with a minivan, who is balancing real life and her day job as a member of Congress. So you could argue that this is a person who understands in a better way, what people are feeling in their day-to-day lives when they struggle with the economic situation that many people have voiced their opinion in last elections as being the most important thing to them.
Now, in a similar vein, longtime Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen not going to be seeking re-election in 2026 in the Granite State, New Hampshire. This is a key swing state across multiple sectors and races. Is this significant news for Democrats, and do you see a shift in new leadership emerging within the Democratic Party?
Well, first, I think Jeanne Shaheen was an excellent senator. And regardless of your political persuasion, she served the people honorably for a number of years. And I think that, Senator Shaheen is balancing two factors. I think she saw herself very likely as an effective senator at a different time. And she's going to be 78, I believe this year, already is 78, and is saying, I'll be 84 by the time my next term would end. Should I make space for new leadership? And I think that is a very responsible decision, and doing so at a time when the party can have a robust primary, should it choose to do so. It has the opportunity to let the voters make a choice on who they would like to represent the Granite State in the future.
Colin Ruggiero, appreciate you joining us to share your perspective. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
And some good news on the economy. Inflation is cooling in the U.S. One major factor, energy prices falling. Our data reporter Kevin Hogan has the numbers. Kevin, what's the inflation rate?
U.S. annual inflation has come down to 2.8%, and that's 3% that it was just last month. But now it's coming down, so it's cooling off a little bit. We're getting a little bit of relief. Again, that doesn't mean that prices are necessarily falling. It just means they're not going up quite as fast. Now let's take a look at the overview of inflation or deflation rates in the United States. This is the change in price going all the way back, about a decade or so. So you had a little bit of deflation around 2015, and then some normal inflation, 1% to 2%. That's pretty typical. You had the pandemic right here, big inflation, could be supply chain bottlenecks contributing to that. And right here, it's starting to come down. So I'll just draw. So we're definitely down off the peak right there, you can see, but also even just drawing this trend line out, it's coming down a little bit, which is some good news. So now the history, that's the history of inflation. Now we're going to look further into this, what the prices are changing. So all the items, that's the 2.8 top line number you saw. But now food, that's 2.8% more expensive than it was last year. So that's pretty on par with the overall inflation. But energy, you can see this is actually negative 0.2%. So that is bringing down the total inflation, cooling it off just a little bit. Now, pardon me. So this is gas prices. These are oil, things like that. All this is coming down just a bit, and that's down to about, that's coming down like 3% or so compared to last year. So that's a good news. You might see, you go to the pump, you might see that you're getting a little bit of relief from that same time in February last year, right? So this is all according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Again, this is the change in the Consumer Price Index. It's not adjusted for the seasonal adjustments, but we're not in a big holiday period right now, so that shouldn't make too much of a difference. And now these energy prices, when we break it down, the fuel oil, that's down 5%. This could be for industrial uses, things like that. So that's really bringing this overall energy price structure down. But gasoline, that's that 3% drop off that you see from last year. But you might notice that your electricity bill and your natural gas bill are a little bit more expensive. So that's the full breakdown of the energy. And we got to talk about food, because everyone's got to eat, and food prices have been a really big sticking point, definitely for this administration, Trump administration, coming in a campaign on bringing some of these down. So the change in food prices, you may notice that if you eat at home, you're not spending quite as much money typically than if you dine out, because that's about twice as much. I mean, 2% of an increase from last year for the dining at home prices, but that's about 4% more. So again, almost double if you dine out. So you might be feeling that a little bit. And here's a breakdown of all the different food items that you may eat while you're at home. So everything from grains, that's pretty steady, hasn't changed that much. Fruits and veggies, they've actually dropped a little bit in price, so that's good. Keep you healthy, right? Now, the fish, meat, those drinks, these are non-alcoholic drinks. That's where you're seeing a lot of these price pressures. But one area that you see huge increases in price, that's eggs. I mean, that just blows them all out of the water. That's almost a 60% increase in the price of eggs since last year. A lot of factors contributing to that. Now, when you look at every single good and service that the Bureau of Labor Statistics has data on, you see that egg prices are the ones that have gone up the most. That's about 60%. Everything out here, I mean, this is CDs. I don't know if anyone really uses CDs anymore, but CDs and other media, that's only at 20%, so that's the next in line. But all the rest of these, they're down about 5% at most. So eggs, that one just really stands out. Could be for a lot of reasons. Again, they've had that bird flu. They may have to kill off and cull their hens. And even Professor of Finance, Professor Jane at Rutgers, says that, well, that's going to take time to bounce back from. There's no immediate relief because you got to let these new hens hatch, and then you got to also do all that cleanup. So it could be a little while before we see those egg prices start to come down again. Back to you.
Coming up, will economic pressure impact Russia's decision for a ceasefire deal? We'll hear from Timothy Ash, Associate Fellow at the Chatham House.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
If joint pain from aging is slowing you down, Omega XL can help you get back in the saddle, just like it did for John Walsh.
Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. Got to be really fit to ride these horses. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL, and look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years.
I'm Reve Walsh. I'm John Walsh's wife. I ride fox hunters, and sometimes I'm in the saddle for 3-5 hours at a time. A lot of work out here.
I wouldn't have been able to do this. Muck a stall, throw hay, do all the things that needs to be done on a ranch a couple years ago. But Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great.
Once you try it, you don't want to be without it. Makes a huge difference.
It does. Take it every single day, and there's a benefit. It's made you a lot nicer to me.
If you've been living with pain, it's time to get this special offer, the Omega XL, the joint health supplement that millions have trusted for more than 20 years. Omega XL, it's sourced from the green-lipped mussel, exclusively found in the pristine waters of New Zealand, some of the cleanest waters on Earth. Omega XL, it's natural, drug-free, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research that show it really works. Try Omega XL today. Pick up your phone and call the number at the bottom of your screen right now for a special offer. Buy 1, get 2 free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3, a value of more than $100. But call today and you pay only $39.95. That's a savings of more than 60%. Plus, it's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee.
Try it. You got nothing to lose.
Call or go online right now to get this special offer. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $39.95. Call now.
And welcome back to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. Now turning our head to the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire talks, we're happy to have on Timothy Ash, an Associate Fellow of the Russia and Eurasia Program at the Chatham House. Timothy Ash, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
Timothy, Ukraine launching a significant drone attack in what appears to be the Moscow region this Tuesday. This comes just ahead of U.S.-Ukrainian peace talks in Saudi Arabia. What are the implications of this attack on the potential for Russia to agree to this 30-day ceasefire?
Not very much, really. I mean, both sides tend to escalate before meaningful negotiations. We saw that around the Minsk process before the full-scale invasion. I mean, Russia itself has launched very large-scale attacks in the last few days, so I don't think it's really going to impact on Russia's decision.
Now, with Russia's economy starting to stagnate, showing significant signs of slowing, could this hasten an end to the war and ultimately encourage Russia to accept the ceasefire proposal?
Well, look, I mean, Russia's economy has proven much more durable over the last 3 years than many people expected. Lots of sanctions have been imposed, but there were a lot of buffers in place. I mean, as you mentioned, the Biden administration interestingly ranked up sanctions from the middle of the year. And I think some of those buffers were beginning to be eroded. We saw pressure on the ruble. We saw the central bank having to make decisions that it probably didn't want to make, like raising interest rates. So I think, you know, the signs were looking fairly difficult for Putin and Russia in terms of the economic front. Obviously, the Trump administration has come in, spoken about sanctions moderation. There looks like a bit of relief for Russia at the end of the kind of rainbow, you could argue, with the Trump administration. So maybe they think there's a bit, if they last out a little bit further, then the economic situation is going to improve for them.
Now, Europe is seeing a surge in military spending leading to a rise in European defense-related stocks. How much does this relate to President Trump's strategy of reducing U.S. aid to force Europe to step up versus being more proactive?
Well, it's a combination of two things. Obviously, it's the threat from Russia and the perception now that that's existential. You know, that's been there for a long time. Obviously, the 3-year-long war in Ukraine should have made European politicians wake up to the fact. But I think, you know, in the first few months of the Trump presidency, particularly comments by Vance, members of the Trump administration, the Security Council, have questioned the U.S. backstop for European defense. Many people are questioning whether NATO has a future, and the reality has dawned, I think, the combination of those comments by the Trump administration, plus I think what happened at the Oval Office with the Ukrainians, suggesting that Europe needs to step up. And I think we've seen comments over the last week or so by the European Union, the German Chancellor-elect, that they are going to massively increase defense spending, and obviously that's driven European defense stocks to new highs.
To your point, some of those European officials estimate that without additional U.S. defense support, Ukraine will be able to maintain its current level of combat only until the middle of this year. Hopefully the war will be over by then and we won't have to be having this discussion. But if not, do you think Europe could replace the United States in providing the appropriate aid to Ukraine?
Well, the problem's not money and finance. Europe is a $27 trillion economy. And, you know, the last 3 years, it's cost the West about $100 billion to support Ukraine a year. So, I mean, you know, Europe is able to fund it. The question really is, unfortunately, there's a gap in terms of military production in Europe. In the short term, Europe will have to go to the US and hope that the Trump administration will sell the weaponry needed to defend Europe and defend Ukraine. Ukraine itself has stepped up its own military production. It produces something like 40% of its own needs. It's pretty self-sufficient now in things like drones. It's increasingly a drone warfare. But it's the longer range stuff, that's the more technical longer range kit that only the US can really provide in scale. HIMARS, Patriot missile system, ATACMS, all these things. You know, the Ukraine need those for things like its air defense, critical actually. But in the short term, the West, well, Europe, I should say, will continue to have to buy from the US.
Timothy Ash, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you. And that's nearly all for tonight. Take note, if you are in the Southwest, mudslides and debris flows threaten Southern California as powerful storms prompted evacuations in the Los Angeles area. But the storm's biggest punch will come as it moves east throughout the week. The National Weather Service is forecasting strong snow, rain, and wind in Southwest California through Thursday, and critical fire weather conditions will continue in the southern plains throughout Saturday. Millions But people are reportedly at risk of wildfires, thunderstorms, tornadoes, powerful wind gusts, and blizzard conditions. That is all we have for you tonight on the Capitol Report. For round-the-clock original coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live and download our NTD mobile app. From the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., I'm Steve Lance. Have a nice evening. See you back here tomorrow.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for